Voilà, dan gaan we met het laatste punt, le rôle des autres professions de la santé, l'enseignement, éducation, adhérence, therapeutiek. Dus de rol van andere gezondheidszorgberoepen. En het is professor Jean-Marie Malotto die voor de bibliografiegroep de samenvatting van het bibliografisch onderzoek gaat brengen. Jean-Marie.
Merci. Donc pour cette dernière question, je pense, je n'ai pas de conflit d'intérêt à déclarer. La question est la suivante: quel est le rôle des autres professionnels de santé dans la prise en charge de la migraine? Alors par autres professionnels de la santé, on pense éventuellement, la discussion vient d'ailleurs de soulever ces différents collègues, la présence des différents collègues, pharmaciens, psychologues, les infirmiers, infirmières, les physiothérapeutes et éventuellement d'autres. Alors donc c'est une recherche de littérature qui a été faite par les collègues. Cette image, vous l'avez déjà vue, c'est exactement les mêmes sources qui ont été utilisées, donc les mêmes guidelines. La difficulté un peu particulière à cette recherche-ci, c'est que cette question n'est pas directement posée dans les guidelines, et donc les collègues ont dû chercher à différents endroits pour trouver les éléments de réponse qui étaient assez dispersés. La première guideline dont vous avez déjà entendu parler, c'est la SIGN. Alors tout ce qui se trouve là, vous l'avez déjà entendu, mais il y a deux éléments intéressants du côté droit. C'est qu'on y rappelle dans cette guideline l'importance de l'éducation, donc de l'information du patient, on en a déjà beaucoup parlé. Et en dessous, vous voyez qu'on évoque également les conditions dans lesquelles on devrait envisager un transfert ou un avis en deuxième ligne, voire éventuellement en troisième ligne. Alors, je crois que l'exposé précédent a fait allusion au fait qu'on réfère idéalement vers un médecin spécialiste, entre autres lorsqu'il y a échec des traitements. La guideline de SIGN précise que, selon eux, c'est l'échec de 3 traitements antérieurs. Donc des traitements que le médecin généraliste, parce qu'il suggère également que la prise en charge soit essentiellement faite par le médecin généraliste, aura mis en route. La guideline NHG précise également certains aspects. Donc éventuellement, quand les patients, présentent des migraines atypiques, et puis ils évoquent également assez largement le fait qu'on l'a aussi beaucoup évoqué, que beaucoup de céphalées sont induites, sont liées à une prise excessive de médicaments, et ils évoquent dans ce cas-là éventuellement le recours, éventuel à un médecin spécialiste. Dans la guideline de Eigenbrod, dont on a déjà parlé également, on insiste beaucoup sur le fait que les médecins de première ligne, les médecins généralistes, vont s'occuper et vont le faire très efficacement de la grande majorité des patients, ce qui veut dire que le recours à un médecin spécialiste est assez rarement nécessaire. Et ces médecins de première ligne sont certainement impliqués dans la prise en charge même à long terme. Et on l'a dit également dans toute une série de mesures, de conseils qui doivent être donnés régulièrement donc pour maintenir un traitement efficace. On y souligne également le fait que lorsqu'il y a eu recours à un médecin spécialiste, eh bien, il faut que ce médecin spécialiste renvoie vers le médecin généraliste lorsque la situation est stabilisée, et on donne par exemple une durée de l'ordre de 6 mois d'un traitement qui est efficace. Et puis alors, il ne faut pas le rappeler en consultation spécialisée, mais le renvoyer avec, on l'a évoqué donc dans la discussion précédente, avec un schéma de traitement à l'intention du médecin généraliste qui va donc assurer le suivi. Alors dans le rôle des autres professionnels de santé, il y a finalement beaucoup d'éléments qu'on ne trouve pas, beaucoup de réponses qu'on ne trouve pas dans les guidelines concernées. NICE précise par exemple qu'il n'y a pas suffisamment d'évidence, de preuves pour recommander des traitements de physiothérapie ou des thérapies psychologiques. Alors que dans les revues, dans les guidelines françaises, on mentionne, surtout lorsqu'il y a des patients stressés, anxieux, etc., que des thérapies cognitivo-comportementales, relaxation, etc., peuvent être utiles. On y dit aussi que les mesures diététiques, finalement, des mesures diététiques efficaces sont difficiles à recommander puisqu'il y a très peu de données à ce sujet-là. Eigenbrod mentionne que les thérapies donc comportementales peuvent être un apport éventuellement, ou un traitement éventuellement lorsque certains médicaments sont contre-indiqués. Et ils disent également, Eigenbrod, que contrairement à à l'idée acquise, il y a très peu d'évidence concernant l'efficacité des exercices physiques, des manipulations ou encore des approches diététiques. Alors, concernant donc éventuellement le recours à des collègues qui pratiqueraient l'acupuncture, on y trouve donc dans NICE, disons, une recommandation qu'éventuellement l'acupuncture peut être utile lorsque les traitements donc, classiques, topiramate, propranolol, ne sont pas souhaitables ou ne sont pas utilisables ou inefficaces. Les guidelines françaises proposent également le recours à l'acupuncture comme alternative ou en complément au traitement prophylactique chez des patients où l'efficacité du traitement est insuffisante. Et Eigenbrod également considère que l'acupuncture peut être éventuellement utile et seule la directive NHG indique que l'acupuncture n'est pas recommandée en tant que traitement pour la prévention. Alors, je vais passer assez vite là-dessus parce que sur la prise en charge des abus, des céphalées ou des migraines liées à des abus de médicaments, on a déjà largement abordé ça. Les directives, vous voyez, NICE comme NHG, insistent sur le fait qu'il ne faut pas systématiquement hospitaliser le patient pour la prise en charge ou pour le sevrage. On n'est pas ici pour discuter de la technique de sevrage, mais donc très souvent, il semble que ça peut se faire en ambulatoire. Et on consulte éventuellement un neurologue s'il y a des difficultés particulières, et alors évidemment également s'il y a par exemple prise d'opiacés ou d'autres substances qui rendent le sevrage beaucoup plus complexe. Donc en général, c'est possible selon ces guidelines en traitement de première ligne. Concernant les migraines menstruelles, il n'y a finalement pas beaucoup d'informations concernant la collaboration indispensable ou utile avec les collègues, mais dans la recommandation française, on propose une collaboration entre le médecin et un gynécologue, ce qui est assez logique et qui va un peu dans le bon sens. Concernant la grossesse, toujours dans l'idée d'une collaboration avec d'autres professionnels de santé, de nouveau c'est un peu le bon sens, donc je ne reprends pas la notion des substances qui sont dangereuses, valproate ou topiramate. Vous savez sans doute qu'il y a actuellement un dossier à l'étude à l'agence européenne pour voir si finalement le topiramate s'avère tératogène. La revue NICE indique qu'on peut éventuellement avoir un avis spécialisé. Pour NHG, toujours dans le cas de grossesse, on suggère, lorsqu'il y a une insuffisance au point de vue donc lorsque le traitement en cours est insuffisant, de référer à un neurologue. Et les revues françaises aussi conseillent une collaboration entre le médecin généraliste, le neurologue et un gynécologue éventuellement. Engelbrot considère en cas de grossesse de faire assez systématiquement un recours au médecin spécialiste. Concernant les enfants, toujours ce qui est indiqué dans les quelques guidelines retenus donc par le groupe de lecture, concernant les enfants et le recours au pédiatre, qui était une question aussi posée juste avant cette intervention-ci. Donc assez logiquement aussi, on conseille un recours au pédiatre lorsqu'il y a un doute ou une hésitation quant au diagnostic, lorsque le traitement est insuffisant, inefficace, ou pour l'initiation d'un traitement préventif. Dans cette revue NHG, on considère l'intérêt de la thérapie de relaxation et on évoque donc le recours à un psychologue pour des enfants qui présentent donc des migraines. Et donc, en résumé, comme vous le voyez, on a beaucoup de points pour lesquels on n'a pas de réponse précise dans les 5 guidelines, 5 ou 6 guidelines examinés. On insiste sur le suivi du style de vie et l'importance de l'éducation, et on suggère le recours aux spécialistes lorsque le traitement est inefficaces. Et vous avez vu, par exemple, lorsque 3 médicaments sont révélés inefficaces lors de grossesse ou désir de grossesse, éventuellement chez les enfants, et lorsqu'il y a, dans certains cas, donc, des céphalées liées à un abus de médicaments. Donc, les thérapies comportementales et l'acupuncture peuvent être, donc, selon ces guidelines, envisagées. Par contre, donc, les collègues qui ont fait cette recherche de littérature n'ont pas vu d'informations utiles ou en tout cas précises concernant la collaboration avec les pharmaciens, dont on sait pourtant qu'elle est très importante, ou avec des infirmières, si ce n'est éventuellement avec les infirmières qui sont rattachées à des cliniques de la migraine, donc des infirmières formées un peu plus spécialisées. Voilà. Merci pour votre attention.
Merci. Voilà, donc s'il n'y a pas d'études, il faut des experts pour donner leur opinion. Et c'est Madame Colette André, CEO de Migraine Action, Soins de santé, département sciences pharmaceutiques de l'Université de Bâle, qui va nous expliquer ce qu'elle en pense.
In English. Okay, first, many thanks for inviting me here, and I'm really sorry I didn't get all of your discussions in Flemish. I tried hard. I mean, there was some yes, oh no, maybe I misunderstood. So I'm the last one. The last one bites the dogs. That's what one tells. So please be patient with me. I was actually asked, what is the role other than GPs and neurological and specialized? And I got as an answer, as literature, non-pharmacological treatment. I said, okay, interesting. So what I've done is, don't worry, it won't take 2 hours, but because I structured it in 2 answers. The first answer would be on the role of other than GPs and neurologists in supporting migraine patients. And the second is non-pharmacological treatment. What is logical? That's so, starting first with what we've heard this morning. There are so many pains as there are heads. So you want to go only there or there? So I think the decision to whom to turn is very complex and is individual. You can't force anybody. You can't force you to go to Aldi, to Lidl, or to anywhere else. So you are choosing whom you want to go to, whom services you use, and whom you got treated well. And the second thing is you have individual needs. Each migraine, as we've also heard this morning, is individual. So one is more with the menstrual migraine, so why do you turn to, I don't know, to an ORL? You maybe go to gynecologist, or so to whom to turn depending what you've got. So, and in order to start, I would like to say, GP or neurologist, let's see the regrettable reality. I'm a migraine patient, by the way. Migraine is unglamorous. Disability, nobody takes really once. It's a Cinderella in the medical profession. You go to university, what you learn as a medical doctor, is it taken really seriously in university as a pharmacist? Have you heard about it? Whatever. So I've done in Europe and 10 countries study, and the result was poor medical care on 9,000 patients. We had about 30% of correct diagnosis and correct treatment. It was shocked by GPs. And this is GP analysis by GPs. So it was a very neutral analysis. The other thing is, other regrettable reality is easy access to various over-the-counter drugs. Patients can just go and buy and take, and they use, because if you don't get taken well care, you just go and you want to have your pain to go. That's all you do. And the other thing is we have high comorbidity. So whom to turn to if you're anxious, if you are depressed? So it's comorbidity as well. And we have, of course, due to the over-the-counter drugs, we have secondary headache, like as overconsumption of acute drugs. And what WHO is saying, that the roots in the failure of treatment, mismanagement of migraine, is education failure at every level. Wherever, starting from the patient, so education level, and and the widespread lack of understanding. So who could do something against this? I think education is key, and education for all different stakeholders. We need to empower each one who takes part of the management of migraine. So to empower and to transform. Let's start with universities. Universities, they need to tell the healthcare providers, they need to tell healthcare providers that it is important, that this is a disorder, a neurological disorder. They need to put interest in research. If you think it's nothing, why should you do interest in research? Because it's just something which is not important. We need doctor, and I would say healthcare profession societies to do, once you've started, let's say ideal word, we've done a good education on migraine, then we need post-grade education, because changes occur, changes of new medications, changes of, we need continuous medication education certificates. Then the third, we need good patient organization to inform patients, because they are the first concerned. If they are well educated, they can communicate better, they can understand why they have to take the drug, at what time, at which doses, and what happens in the head. So this is also important. And maybe schools. I've heard so many little children saying they get mobbed because they have migraine, because nobody tells the other children that migraine is a disorder like epilepsy. Epileptic don't get mobbed, but migraineurs get mobbed. So maybe schools could be also a possibility. So what we need is, actually for Rôle, we need improvement for quality of diagnosis, quality of treatment, understanding and acceptance of migraine disorder, so destigmatization, interest and support in migraine research, and we need quality of for both sides, patient and healthcare providers, quality of communication. So by whom could this additionally to GPs and neurologists be brought? I just put the list of low threshold. This is not a list of importance, of low threshold. The lowest threshold is the patient. The patient knows what he has, what kind of migraine he has. Maybe once the migraine starts left, then it's less different, then it's less hard than when it starts right. Patients know, and patients also know, oh, maybe I take this or that. So they have to be informed, and they can help themselves if they are good educated. They can help themselves very well. They can also do self-management, non-pharmacological self-management. The second one I've put on, not only because I'm a pharmacist as well, I will tell you the role of a pharmacist. Let me just, maybe I can do the next one and I come back to this one. So the pharmacist, why do I choose him? Not because I'm one as well, but very often they need drugs. So they are the first point of contact. And if you would have, by chance, an educated pharmacist, let's see, ideal world again, an educated GP, educated pharmacist, then they could help you. And you don't need an appointment. You can just go there. You don't have to wait for 3 months or 6 months to get the next appointment. Easy entrance. They have long opening hours. After work, you can still go there. So there are some advantages, and they've got normally a very solid medical treatment education. So what they could do, they shouldn't take the role of the doctor. No, I don't say that, but they could do triage. They could say, hey, I think you might have something different than migraine as well, asking certain questions, or you might take a little bit too much. Let's see what we can do else, or educate to support the decision of the doctor, because sometimes the patient comes, why do you give him a beta blocker? I don't have high blood pressure. And explaining, supporting, explaining what happens in the head, why they take it, and also explaining why they have to take this dosage and at what time, because the prescription is, well, when the patient goes out of the doctor's place and saying, what has he said? I just have this prescription. And then he doesn't know anymore what to take and when to take and how to combine. So this could be supportive role. Or in comorbidity, pharmacists normally know what they take as well. So, you come here, so you take normally this and that and that. So they can also say, oh, maybe you can tell your doctor, could be this a suggestion, could be that something for you. And they have addresses of physiotherapists, of other non-GP, non-neurological doctors' addresses, and they could support also in lifestyle. So go back to patient organization. Patient organization, they have additional role also in not only in education, But they have also a role in awareness raising, a role in political driving forces. They have a role in supporting self-management, in education, in information, evidence-based information. The other thing is, which also low threshold, is a physiotherapist, and I don't mean massage. I mean a physiotherapist has lots of time, 30 minutes, a GP 10 minutes. So we have a difference. We have about 30 minutes time, quality time with the patient. So he or she, if she is educated or he is educated on headache, on migraine, he could additionally help and find out in discussion while using in the patient to direct or triage as well. So physiotherapists have also an additional, a very important role. And I think you mentioned it because, as I said, Flemish is not a language which I understand well. Other doctors, as a woman, which is majorly a woman's disorder, I mean 3 to 1, so you turn normally to a gynecologist. You want a pill, you get pregnant, you have postmenopausal, you have menopausal problem. You always go and see, or you have your checks regular. You go and see a gynecologist. Why don't they get a good education? They could really help and support you. They know, maybe no estrogen, maybe we will go more on another approach, or they know maybe we take naproxen, or we take, we don't have this unfortunate naratriptan, fovatriptan, because they are the best triptans for menstrual migraines. Unfortunately, you don't have them reimbursed. Or ENT, some patients think they've got something in the eyes with the aura, they got ear problem, or they get problem of their balance, so they go and see them. They need education. The ophthalmologic, because they have the aura, you get the new glasses, didn't help. Okay, but if they are educated, they could see there's something else. So they all have also a role, or specialized sleep doctors. Pediatricians have a tremendous role, because some 8 to 10% of children have migraine. So they could really help, and they could educate the patients and really help to go well, and to help self-management of the little children. Because, and if you tell them, oh, you're poor, you tell them, hey, you're a Superman, or you have a Porsche in your head, and the Porsche needs to be driven other than a Golf, then, oh, I drive my Porsche differently. Okay, if you drive the Porsche well, you can go very far. If you have a Golf, okay, you just, you don't have to take care, you don't have to give so much petrol, but you give different petrol. So educate a child, motivate a child, that's fantastic, good choice for the pediatrician or specialized nurse. Unfortunately, we don't find them. We see them in specialized care. In the world where everything would be perfect, we would find them, many, and we would need them. But they are scarce. And psychiatrists and psychologists, not because it is a psychosomatic disorder, but the comorbidities. Sometimes they are so anxious, and this anxiety takes all their petrol. So they get more attacks because they are anxious. So psychologists and psychiatrists can play a role, but we have to explain the patient why. Not that they are gaga, but because we can tell them that this is draining and putting them up the migraine, and we can find out to lower the migraine by finding a reason to get less anxiety and less depression. So they have an important role as well. So I tried on my first answer to have a kind of a consensus. As I said, it's food for thought, it is not direction. What a patient needs, as we are all dealing with, is a multi-stakeholder, patient-centered management, not out-of-the-box production, considering the needs, expectations, and responsibilities. Patients have a responsibility, for example, as well, of all stakeholders, and take into account the socioeconomic, reimbursement and all the technology dimensions in a continuum of care, because migraine changes in a continuum of care. So the quality really depends on the quality of training. You have no good trainers, you can't have not good support. So what I think, after other role, I think most other doctors could play an important role. Even so, low-threshold healthcare providers, like pharmacists, physical therapists, as an example, they can play a role in the care process for patients with migraine in close collaboration with the treating physician. But the most important is that specific training on headache is necessary. We have two experts in headache. We have the patient expert and we have the healthcare provider expert, always meeting. So establishing an educated multidisciplinary treatment support may be one step forward, optimizing care and prevention, but I guess the health insurances and the national health decision makers have also to support this. Because you need, if you have time for half an hour to discuss patient and thing, it needs some reimbursement, but of course for this you need evidence-based health outcome studies to show what they are doing, if they are doing is correct, then getting them also reimbursement. Just food for thought. Now, the next one. Second part, non-pharmacological. I'm sorry, it now comes with non-pharmacological. Let me see, we find out that lemon helps in acute treatment, huh? Lemon with some water helps. So should we give them all a kind of a lemon cut? I think the adherence with males would not be so good. So, but this is, so we shouldn't go on that way. For finding out this, so we go further to that. So I think we should look at what is logical or pharmacological or non-pharmacological. What do we have as baseline? We've heard it all today. We have no cure. We have no full comprehension of the disorder. We know this, and we more and more get to know more and more, but still not everything. We have a long-term disability. We have poor adherence to pharmacological treatment. 16% stay after 1 year on prophylactic drugs. Not much. So treatment do not work every time. We've heard it. Once you take it, next time it doesn't work. That happens. And treatment stops suddenly working. It worked for 3 months, they said, and suddenly it stops working. That's reality. We have a high individual variability in response to treatment. So 70% triptans, what we do with the other 30%? Ciao, see you next life. No, we have, that's reality, and we have a very high placebo response. So should we give everybody placebo? So this, I don't think Jean has produced much nicer thing. We've known many things about the disease, but we still, as I said, we still don't know everything. So what are the possible, what I call non-pharmacological options? What do we have? Okay, we have phytotherapy, plants, we have medical devices, we have nutrition supplements, dietary supplements, we have vitamins, we have manual therapy. I just say the options, not my choice. And then we have self-management, body awareness, relaxation techniques, lifestyle changes, trigger detection, endurance training. Let's look, now I say food for thought. What do we want? We want efficacy. So significant improvement compared to baseline. We want patient safety. Long-term organotoxicity, we don't want. We don't want many contraindications. We want quality of life, little side effects or no side effects if possible. We want adherence because the treatment which works and patients don't adhere doesn't help either. We want comorbidity. Additional positive effect, maybe you can't sleep, you give them something that makes you tired or things. So additional positive effects. And then we want little interaction with other treatment. We want, of course, cost. We want, if possible, low cost or reimbursement. For the patients prefers, of course, reimbursement. And we want ease of use, ease of access. So what do we have here? I looked at paracetamol. I looked at efficacy. Oh, I didn't see much. I saw nearly as similar as placebo. So, but it is given. So, Then I saw beta blocker as prophylactic. Adherence, side effects, interaction, yeah, but also we can't give it with when we have asthmatic people, we can't give it when the low pressure is already low. So we don't have wonder things. So why don't we just think about, consider non-pharmacological the same way than we consider pharmacological? In phytotherapy, for example, we have butterbur, we have feverfew, we have ginger, and St. John's. So in nutrition, I'll just mention some. In nutrition supplements, we have vitamin B2, coenzyme 10, magnesium, B9, melatonin. So let's see, phytotherapy, I would say butterbur, we've got very, very good studies. But in butterbur, we have a problem. Which one should only look the CO2 as extracted butterbur, because that don't have the pyrrolizidine alkaloid hepatotoxic effect. If you take petadolax, that doesn't have it. So, but it's not prescribed because of there were former drugs which had this, which were not extracted, CO2 extracted. Feverfew doesn't correspond to the wishful thinking list which I had before. Ginger one can just take as acute, take it doesn't harm. If you just take it and doesn't cost much. St. John's is okay, it's an antidepressive, but it is also side effects or contraindications, so it's not so, as I said, it's my ideas. This is not rules, it's not guidelines. And then in nutrition supplements, I think we've got very good, with vitamin B2, why don't you try it? What is the side effect? That people are more energetic or they get yellow urine, or I don't know. What's the side effect? Why don't you try it? And then for how long? Coenzyme 10 or magnesium, or as we just heard this morning, combination B2 and B9 and B2. Why shouldn't we just try it? Melatonin and omega-3, I haven't seen no negative effect, or omega-3, I haven't seen studies which have really convinced me, so I just write it in gray. Then we have in the manual therapy. Manual therapy, biofeedback, relaxation, hypnosis, physiotherapy, acupuncture, craniosacral, chiropractic. As self-management, we have endurance exercise, yoga, Jacobson therapy, self-hypnosis, keto diet, trigger elimination, lifestyle changes. Don't worry, only 2 more slides. So in manual therapy, I would say biofeedback is something interesting. Why? First, you learn something and then you can do it yourself. It's important the patient does stuff themselves at home and is not always dependent on a third person. You need to empower the patient. Relaxation, you can start learning it, and then you can do it the way you want to relax. If you want to take your dog for a walk for each day for 30 minutes, that's okay if you relax like this, if that helps. So physiotherapy, I think, is also important. But physiotherapy, I really don't mean massage. Maybe that's good for the feeling, but I mean really helping to give training, supporting training, or showing how they can strengthen their necks, giving them tips or ways how to improve, and then to improve themselves. And, as I said, to educate. Acupuncture, I think we've got interesting results from the studies I've seen, but okay, they don't work for everybody. Maybe one should say for how long. Maybe after 10 treatments one stops and then one doesn't go. So the length of the treatment should be used. And for self-management therapy, each one has its own resources. You can't, for example, you can't tell a woman with 4 children, go and do your endurance exercise 3 times a week for 30 minutes. You say, okay, I have already a lot of exercise with all my children, so they can't do it. It's not for everybody. It's choice, but I think it is very important. The only one which I've taken out is keto diet, because keto diet is, first, it's very tough to be adherent. And second, it's the fatty acid intake and the constipation is side effects which I would not approve. So, but I said it's not guideline. So in this self-management, as much as you can, as many as you can, and depending on your beliefs, on your expectation, and on your resources. I think that's very important. And the last one, medical devices. I think medical devices are also, if people want it or are ready to take it, and I like very much the approach, I don't know if it's the same in Belgium, the approach of Cephaly. They're saying, we give it to you. Actually, it costs 360 euro, tremendous cost. But if you are not happy, if it doesn't work, you send it back and you only had paid 60. I think this approach is a very open approach, and I like this kind of approach because if you like it, you don't send it back. If it works and if you're dear. So this is for medical devices, I think, an interesting approach, and Relivion will come from the States. It's not yet in Europe. I think it's also an interesting, but the approach should, I guess, be quite similar. So, as I said, it might be helpful to discuss this non-pharmacological intervention as adjunct to acute and preventive, as standalone preventive treatment when medication is contraindicated or ineffective, or basically as standalone, just to start first and look because no side effects, and then go. It's just food for thought. Thanks.
Oké, we hebben nog enkele minuten om vragen te stellen en dan krijgen de juryleden voorrang. Donc les membres du jury ont la priorité. Je m'excuse chez le public, mais
French and English is okay,
English.
but Flemish...
Yeah. Maybe it's not directly related to the other healthcare professionals, but it's a question concerning the misdiagnosis, and maybe it's again a question for all the experts. If you would recommend one of the questionnaires mentioned beforehand, like the HERT, I don't know all the names anymore. Would there be any questionnaire you would recommend to do a correct diagnosis?
ID? The ID migraine is the simplest one, 3 questions, and 2 out of them is yes, you have 93% of at least this as a start.
But this is probably one which is
Screening test.
good for the patient itself, but to be used by a GP, for example?
I wish GPs would do it. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is no such thing as a questionnaire. You could think of a semi-structured interview, but I think a migraine diagnosis should not be that difficult. If you just take the migraine criteria, there's a few more questions to ask, but it's not a huge list. So the migraine screener, as you say, is 3 questions, has a positive predictive value of 93%. I think, for example, in the pharmacies, it's very useful. It's something that a pharmacist could use. But I mean, a GP should ask more than 3 questions.
You might have, if you have half an hour, of course you can do a very intense analysis. You can look, how do you work? What is your triggers? You can go on many things. But if you have got 5 to 10 minutes, that's reality. You have to choose the most effective way of being the most correct way of approaching the patient. It's not, I think it would be great to go to, out of these 4, you need at least have 2, and out of these 2, you need at least 1, so the International Headache Society recommendations, but the idea has been tested against it, and it was quite valid. So in 5 minutes, why don't you take it? It's okay, even patients could do it, yes. But they could even come with you. I think, according to ID, I have this. Could you check? Could you tell me more? So this is an educated patient coming to you. You lose less time, and you can really go one step further because you are ahead of the knowledge, and you could have this collaboration as on an equal level, because then the patient is taken serious, and the patient would be adherent because it is a respectful communication. Because each human being likes, whoever we are, respectful communication.
Okay, thank you for this very enthusiastic speech. We gaan moeten afsluiten. Misschien een applaus voor de... Dan is mij nog iedereen te bedanken die eraan meegewerkt heeft. Herman Beijers in eerste instantie voor de organisatie, de sprekers, het publiek, de juryleden die nog niet klaar zijn. Donc les membres du jury sont attendus en bas à la sortie ici pour aller à l'hôtel ensemble.